really felt. With me, they felt.
It's just very, very sad to see these kids being neglected like that.
I think that we're setting ourselves up for continued failure. We all have a responsibility to create a better system.
I love my kids. I have to try to protect them as best I can from all of this.
It is a broken system, and I could not stomach any more of it.
They're gonna have to change something.
I want them to hear that these children are not disposable. These are our responsibility to take care of these children. These children have come from horrible environments.
Children living in inhumane conditions, neglected, ignored, forgotten.
Children lost in a system created to keep them safe.
We have spent this year investigating both the juvenile justice system and the foster care system in North Texas's largest county. I'm anchor and reporter Cynthia Izaguirre.
I'm investigative reporter Morgan Young.
And I'm senior crime and justice reporter Rebecca Lopez. We found systemic issues leaving at-risk and overlooked children often in worse conditions than where they came from. And we're footing the bill.
That's right, and these are complex issues that often go unnoticed and unchallenged. We trust they're doing what we pay them to do.
But a year of work, multiple whistleblowers coming forward, and months of poring over documents reveal these systems are in crisis.
Our investigation took us inside the Juvenile Detention Center, a place where the public can't go. But we talked to whistleblowers who came forward with disturbing allegations of unsanitary conditions and inhumane treatment of juveniles awaiting trial, some of them for minor crimes, all under the noses of judges and administrators who told us nothing was going on. What is happening inside the Juvenile Detention Center in Dallas County? It depends on who you ask. Former and current employees came to us with concerns and shared photos of the inside.
The living conditions, when they would come out of their cells, it was pretty bad.
A former employee who asked we not identify him shared these images. Some of the pictures of toilets overflowing with feces are too disturbing to broadcast, so we can't show them to you. But these we can. It shows a facility in recent months that is filthy and unsanitary.
There was trash piled up, and they had gnats flying around. Their toilets were clogged up, mattresses were ripped, blankets were ripped. It was pretty bad.
He and others we spoke to say they are speaking out because they're concerned about the living conditions and staffing shortages. Kids as young as 11 years old are inside the juvenile detention facility.
The majority of the times, these kids are up, for 3 or 4 days straight. It's just very, very sad to see these kids are being neglected like that. There's days where they don't even shower at times just because, there's no staff.
By state law, juveniles are supposed to have 10 hours of function time outside their cells, like going to school or doing activities. But whistleblowers tell us that's not happening frequently. This document provided to us shows us that on this particular day, the juvenile inmates who range in age from 11 to 18 years old were out of their cells for only an hour or two. They didn't go to school. The reason given, not enough staff.
They don't make it an issue. They think that it's okay to have these kids living in these poor conditions.
We shared the pictures with Judge Cheryl Shannon, who is the presiding judge for the Dallas County Juvenile Courts and leads the Juvenile Detention Board that governs the facility. She says she can't confirm the pictures were taken inside the Henry Wade Juvenile Justice Center, but says she is often inside that facility and hasn't seen anything like this.
I just randomly went to some housing quarters. What I saw was things that were clean showers. So if somebody took a photo or photos of some thing that occurred at some point, is it possible? Yes. Did it stay like that? I doubt it.
She also disputes that juveniles are being held in their cells for days at a time.
I can absolutely tell you that by and large, there are not youth that are in their, if you want to call it a cell, in their sleeping quarters for days at a time without functioning, without those activities.
Former and current employees also alleged supervisors mistreat the juvenile suspects in the detention centers. We took a look at one of those cases where documents show a juvenile in detention tried to commit suicide.
What this juvenile did was he began tying shirts and blankets around his neck in an attempt to self-harm himself.
His mother, who didn't go on camera, told us that her son has mental health issues. According to her and the whistleblower, the juvenile didn't immediately get psychiatric help, which is standard protocol. According to records, a supervisor told the jailer not to bother. It's going to take him 2 days to get psych to see him.
This kid didn't even go down to medical. He was never medically cleared.
Judge Shannon says inmates should and do receive proper care when suffering a mental health crisis.
If they have hurt themselves in some way, we're going to get them out of here to get medical treatment. So I absolutely will look into the situation.
Some county commissioners and the district attorney have been at odds with the director of the Juvenile Detention Department, Daryl Beatty, and Judge Shannon. Dallas County has been looking into juvenile care at the detention centers, but can't get records from the Juvenile Detention Board, so they're suing them for the documents.
Yeah, juvenile justice definitely needs to be revamped. We need to have someone in there who does an independent study of our entire juvenile department from top to bottom to figure out where we're doing things right and where we're doing things wrong. Transparency is the key.
Summerman and District Attorney John Creuzot believe that what is happening or not happening inside the facility is keeping the county from focusing on rehabilitation. Creuzot says kids who are not getting proper treatment, programs, or education will be in and out of jail.
If we're watching a system where they're in and out and getting worse and worse, okay, then we all have a responsibility to create a better system.
Creuzot and Summerman have also asked for information on what rehabilitative programs like drug counseling and mental health services are being provided to juveniles. The county commissioners spend hundreds of thousands of dollars funding programs every year, but Summerman says Beatty and the Juvenile Detention Department refuse to release that information. They've had to go as far as finding individual vendors and providers to see if they can get records from them.
What we found was some of these programs are not being used at all. Others are working effectively and others are not. And so we have to examine each one of these programs separately and make sure that we only fund those that are working.
There was a strong suggestion that whatever programs these kids were going to weren't working.
Judge Shannon acknowledges that some of the outside programs may not be used all the time because they have their own internal programs that they utilize first.
I will tell you, I think there are some youth that I don't care what the intervention is, it may not be impactful. I don't think that's the majority of the youth that we serve.
I think that we're setting ourselves up for continued failure, continued recidivism.
We asked Daryl Beatty for an on-camera interview, but he declined, although he said he would meet with us to talk about juvenile justice as a whole. We have learned the state is investigating Dallas County Juvenile Detention Department. That report is expected to come out later this month, and it will shed light on what is being done right and what is being done wrong. After our investigative report aired, the state came in and conducted a surprise inspection that led to resignations, firings, and sweeping changes.
Let me be clear.
This news conference by the director of the Dallas County Juvenile Facility and his staff was held after our investigative report and public outcry about the conditions inside the Henry Wade Juvenile Justice Center. They read pre-prepared statements with their attorney by their side.
The statements and allegations being leveled against our detention center that youth are being subjected to inhumane treatment is categorically false.
The media wasn't allowed to ask any questions. Whistleblowers provided WFAA with pictures showing filthy living conditions. Our sources say it's the norm.
Cleanliness in the facility is a major part of our daily schedule.
They also addressed allegations that juveniles are kept in their cells all day and all night and come out for only about an hour a day. State law requires they be out of their cells 10 hours a day.
Now, we're not perfect, but we strive for perfection. And I can assure you that Dallas County citizens that as of today, the detention center youth are receiving out-of-cell structured and unstructured activities with all of our efforts being directed toward compliance with state law.
But the Juvenile Department refuses to release records that document when kids are out of their cells and doing activities. In fact, the Dallas County Commissioner's Court have sued for those records after the department refused to release them.
But what we're asking for is evidence that that is true, right? Because all the evidence that we're getting are from parents and children who say their civil rights have been violated.
Dale Beatty says the department is dedicated to doing the best they can despite a severe staffing shortage and are doing a good job. But County Judge Clay Jenkins says he's not confident about the information that's being released.
The first thing I heard today was parents and others are calling to say what a great job the juvenile department is doing and how they're being mistreated by the media. Let's hear from those parents, because all I'm hearing from are parents that are not happy and kids that are not happy.
After repeated denials by those in charge, a state report confirmed what we had been reporting all along. A new report released by the Office of Inspector General confirmed what whistleblowers told us, that staff used a program called the Special Needs Unit to confine juveniles in solitary confinement. The report says they spend the vast majority of their days inside their cells, sometimes up to 24 hours a day, without regular access to education, large muscle exercise, outdoor recreation activities, or showers. In an interview with WFAA in May, Judge Cheryl Shannon, who is the head of the Juvenile Detention Board, denied this was happening.
There are not youth that are in their, if you want to call it a cell, in their sleeping quarters for days at a time without functioning, without those activities.
State law requires juveniles be out of their cells at least 10 hours a day. WFAA previously reported that staff were falsifying records to show kids were out of their cells when they weren't. The OIG report says there were pervasive falsification of documents regarding observation checks. Mike Griffith was appointed interim director. He says he's already started making sweeping changes.
So kids are out of their room, and that was certainly a big concern and has been a concern. So a lot has been done on that.
He's also called for a massive cleanup of the jail and has fired more than a dozen employees to ensure the well-being of the juveniles.
You know, you can't talk about the children in the juvenile justice system without also addressing the issues that help get them there.
You have to start there. You know, many national studies show a direct relationship between children being placed in foster care and incarceration. It is commonly called the foster care to prison pipeline. And one study shows by 17, more than 50% of foster children will encounter the juvenile legal system, with that percentage growing the more they're moved around.
It is no secret that foster care in Texas is also in crisis. The state has been in a legal battle over failures in its foster care system for more than 13 years. And this year, an appeals court ruled that the judge who has overseen that case from the very beginning be removed at the state's request. For many, that judge was the only person holding the state system accountable, including this young woman who says the system failed her.
This is my report from CPS, where the judge is gonna know how I've been doing.
At the heart of the legal fight over Texas's foster care system,
This is my life book.
live real people like Jackie Warez in Houston.
It's kind of like my story.
And she will be the first to tell you her story is hard.
They really felt. With me, they felt crooked.
The Texas Department of Family and Protective Services took custody of Jackie after the department found she was abused by her mother and her mother's boyfriend.
I was happy. So I was like, you know what? I am going to a better place right now. I'm not going to suffer anymore because I'm not with the person who's hurting me.
She wanted a new chapter. She got an excess of psychotropic medications, more than 8 prescriptions, according to court records.
You had a medication for every single thing. And they would make me really sleepy. I couldn't really focus in school.
She also spent months in CWAP, or Children Without Placement.
When I was in those placements, it was like there was a whole bunch of kids in offices or in hotels, and they were fighting each other. To get away from the other kids, to not pick on me or to fight me, I would sleep under a desk, and I would put a blanket in my clothes. I would fold them into pillows, and I would sleep under the desk and then wake up early for school the next day.
Jackie spent 7 years in foster care.
They're gonna have to change something.
Jackie testified about her experience in foster care in federal court as part of a hearing that is part of a 13-year ongoing legal battle over failures in the state's foster care system. Her testimony, along with many others, led to U.S. District Judge Janice Jack ruling that the Texas Health and Human Services Commission was in contempt of court for violating her order to properly investigate abuse and neglect claims from children in the state's care. The state appealed that ruling, arguing that it had met all of Judge Jack's standards and accused her of being biased against the state. This month, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals sided with the state, reversing Judge Jack's contempt ruling and granting the state's request to have the case assigned to a new judge for the first time in its more than 13-year history.
Do you have hope that the foster care system in Texas will get better?
What gave me confidence about this case was when I seen Judge Jack. I remember she calls me up the stand. She told me, like, thank you, like, you're brave for doing this. And I remember telling her, please don't let the kids down. She told me I won't.
The legal battle was going on the entire time Jackie was in the state's care. She says, regardless of what happens in court, her lived experience shows more needs to be done.
There should be no kid getting hurt. There should be no kid put into more mental hospitals, because it's going to make the situation worse.
Jackie's story has not been easy, but she tells it.
I'm fighting for kids who are in care. I'm fighting for the kids.
But at the heart of her story is a fight for a new chapter, and it's a fight she's winning. She wants to become a lawyer and fight for kids with stories like hers.
I love myself, and I care about myself, and that's all that matters. Because I had people who said that were going to take care of me and were going to love me, but they failed me. But I'm not going to fail myself.
You just heard Jackie talk about CWAP, or Children Without Placement. It has been an ongoing issue in Texas for years. Children who the state has not found homes for, left to sleep in motels or worse, office floors, which has been illegal since 2021. I sat down with 3 women who spent their careers as caseworkers and were alarmed by what they witnessed.
We have not given these children the opportunity to be able to even think there's possibilities outside of what they're living in right now. And that's unacceptable. Absolutely just unacceptable.
Child Protective Services in the state of Texas is messy, and it has been for decades. Low pay, high caseloads, and emotional stress that can last a lifetime. But there is a special class of children who keep the caseworkers up at night.
It is a broken system, and I could not stomach any more of it.
These women are talking about the nearly 70 children, mainly teenagers, in the system the state of Texas has labeled Children Without Placement. It's the group of kids who have no parents, no foster family, and no facility that will take them. That's because their behavioral issues are too severe. But CPS has no choice but to handle them.
If we don't care for these children now, we will suffer the effects of that later.
Cheryl Becker, Christy Carrington, and Cheryl Guthrie Kimball all spent their careers with Child Protective Services and recently retired. They want you to know it is time we take care of these children and the CPS workers who might be a child's only hope.
I'm concerned that the community is not fully aware of what happens with these youth when they're in hotels or when they're on the streets.
A year and a half ago, these same children who could not be placed in foster care were sleeping in CPS offices. But you heard right. The state actually started renting motel rooms, any rooms they could find for these children, at a moment's notice. And CPS workers have to watch them day and night.
They would, set off the alarms in the rooms. They would throw food. They would break furniture. They would go downstairs in the lobby and, create confusion in the lobby.
We have children with actual diagnosed mental health issues. So we've had children 12 years old having psychotic breaks, because of everything that has happened to them.
And they say that a motel, a business with other paying customers, just isn't where you care for a traumatized child.
So you're in a hotel and your child is in the lobby having a total meltdown, unsafe to themselves, unsafe to anybody around them. Well, as a hotel owner, you're going to say, please leave.
It's not always experienced caseworkers caring for these children. These 3 women say it might be an office clerk or a driver who transports children because caseworkers are overworked and leaving their state jobs.
They're falling asleep while they're supposed to be watching these children. Why? Because they just got off from work from 8 to 5, and now they're at a hotel at 6 p.m., and they're expected to be awake, alert.
According to CPS, anyone caring for children does get training, but these longtime caseworkers say it is not nearly enough.
When you're being spit on, when you're being cussed out, when you're being, getting ready to be assaulted.
When you're watching these children sleep, at the end of the day, they're children. They're children. Have you had that moment, that breakdown moment?
All the time.
Absolutely.
Crying to my staff, crying to my program directors. Oh my God, y'all, I'm so sorry. I'm helpless. I don't know what to do to help you. I'll cover your shift. I'll buy the groceries. I'll do whatever you need. Just tell me what you need.
In a statement, CPS told us reducing the number of children and young people without placement remains a top priority for them.
We've been begging and pleading for help.
Help that is estimated to cost about $45 million over 2 years. That's how much money the Department of Family and Protective Services has requested from lawmakers to handle these children without placement.
It's a failed mandate. Our job is to protect the unprotected, and we're not doing it.
All 3 women believe it is time the legislature fund a facility and appropriately trained staff to handle children who the world has labeled as damaged.
I want them to hear that these children are not disposable. These are our responsibility to take care of these children. These children have come from horrible environments.
One of the solutions the state legislature passed to help address some of the issues you just heard about is community-based care, which is essentially private foster care.
Yeah, the state hired a group called Empower to manage foster care in Dallas and surrounding counties, the largest group of children the state has brought into private care.
Yeah, I have been investigating Empower for more than a year, and just days before they were set to take over, Empower whistleblowers came forward.
Doing a job and pursuing your purpose don't always align, but for her,
I love my job. I love my kids.
they are one and the same.
I can't leave them. I have to try to protect them as best I can from all of this.
This being a system of care that many say have systemically failed thousands of children who have survived the worst. This woman is a caseworker in Dallas for Child Protective Services and asks that we conceal her identity. After nearly 20 years of working for the state of Texas, she will start working for Empower on March 1st.
The people that are going are doing it because they want to stay with their kids. Some are going for the money because they don't have any better options available.
The Texas Department of Family and Protective Services told WFAA that it is transferring 450 jobs in this region of 9 North Texas counties, known as Region 3E, to Empower. These are caseworkers, supervisors, people who specialize in placing children and working with families, either going to work for Empower or having to find another job.
I know there are some people who are forcing themselves to be positive about it, but no, I don't know anybody who is genuinely excited about this prospect.
WFAA got staffing data from DFPS through an open records request. From February of 2023, which is when Empower was selected to manage foster care in this region, through the first week of January of this year, the state says 123 staff members are voluntarily going to Empower. 14 retired, and 86 of them either transferred within DFPS or to other state agencies.
How would you rate the success of that effort to get the DFPS caseworkers to come to Empower?
Dr. Linda Garcia is the Senior Vice President of Empower.
Our goal was to be able to hire approximately 150 caseworkers to come over to us. And right now, I have 158 letter of intent.
Empower confirmed at the end of February that it's hired 147 caseworkers as well as 34 support staff to help them.
This caseworker says she's already feeling the impact of her colleagues choosing not to go over.
I actually myself received a case from a unit where the worker and the supervisor had both left. And I was handed the case, it was put on my workload, and I was basically told, here you go, figure it out, for a child I've never met. And I know that's not the only one.
And she says she expects more.
We were told that we would get pay and benefits that were comparable to what we get with the state, and that did not happen.
She got her base pay matched, but will lose state-funded insurance, a loss of $13,000.
For some workers, that is going to be a destroying factor.
Dr. Garcia and the state's Office for Community-Based Care, which is the state's term for privatization, admitted last year that a private company wouldn't be able to compete with state benefits. But this caseworker says it's more than that. She questions Empower's preparedness and even the information they're receiving from the company.
It's hard to put faith in what's going to be in it when it's coming from Empower.
Why?
Because they've broken every promise that they've made to us. Community-based care is supposed to be about keeping your kids in your community. And they're not. I've had kids go out of region. Multiple kids have gone out of region.
In the past few months?
Yeah.
Since Empower took over?
Since Empower started placements. I've had 2 who have gone out of region just this year, just since December.
When asked about building local capacity for placing children, Dr. Garcia admitted more than half of the providers Empower is working with are outside of this 9-county region.
I have over 160 in our network, but of that, probably about 60 of them are within the county in our region.
The state measures success by keeping children within 50 miles of their home.
They can be not in region and within 50 miles.
They flat out say, we are not going to place kids out of region. Small print. We will if we have to.
Dr. Garcia says she knows there is hesitation.
It's a combination of nervousness, fear of the unknown.
But for caseworkers I spoke with off camera and the one who sat down to tell her story.
Every worker that I have spoken to is expecting it to fail.
Where they agree is that's not the outcome they want.
I feel really confident that community-based care is the right thing to do.
We want Empower to succeed. We want Empower to be the solution to our problems.
One of the issues with having a private company manage foster care in Dallas County is it creates a barrier to getting timely, accurate information. After weeks of waiting, we were finally able to get a report from the state on Empower's progress. What we found? The same issues. According to letters sent from DFPS to the CEO of Empower's parent company, those violations included staff failing to attend court hearings, not making face-to-face contact with children in their care, also high caseloads for caseworkers, and an issue we've been reporting on for years, children spending too much time in CPS, now Empower offices, and in some cases spending the night there, which has been illegal since 2021.
There's not beds in the office. There's not food in the office. So the kids doesn't have food, they don't have beds, most of them are laying around on the floor.
In late May, more than a month after this letter was sent, a former caseworker told me multiple children had spent the night at Empower offices because there weren't placements for them. A caseworker sent this photo of a child sleeping on the floor of one of the offices. I emailed Empower Senior Vice President Dr. Linda Garcia multiple times about this accusation. She did not confirm or deny it happened. But the state's letter to Empower reads, it was brought to the attention of DFPS that children remained in Empower offices for extended periods of time without placement, reminding Empower that under no circumstances may the child or youth temporarily stay overnight in a DFPS office. The notice also informs Empower DFPS is aware that dozens of caseworkers had more cases than the maximum of 17, which is a federal mandate. It also notes judges have complained about caseworkers not showing up to hearings, and often when they do come, quote, have not had face-to-face contact with children, have little to no knowledge about the case, and are in some instances unaware of the location or details of the child's placement. Now, in response, Empower addressed each of the concerns with a specific strategy as well as a time frame and quality assurance measure for each one. In a statement from Empower this month, the organization said the challenges it's faced have largely been due to early and unanticipated staff turnover. A bulk of Empower's strategy focuses on ramping up hiring efforts and boosting employee retention to help with caseloads, as well as training staff to make sure they are in compliance as they manage cases.
The goal of foster care is to get children into forever homes. We want them out of the child welfare system, which we know likely lowers their chances of being involved in the juvenile justice system. We also know it's not enough to just talk about the problem, and that is why we highlight a foster child every week in our Wednesday's Child segments. I have seen firsthand how giving a child love and support not only changes their lives, but their brains. I want to introduce you to a young boy named Eden.
When we first met 11-year-old Eden in January of 2019, he was all smiles.
Are you excited?
Yes, I am.
Fast forward more than 4 years.
I've missed you.
I missed you too, you know.
Now, 15 years old, Eden wanted to learn meteorology here at our WFAA studios.
What did Miss Marielle teach you?
How to forecast the weather. But now I'm a pro at it.
He also told us,
which is Wheel of Fortune.
Me too!
about his other favorite TV show.
Fanny White, it's good to see you, and I hope you have an awesome day. Pat, you're amazing. 3, 2, 1.
Eden is still spreading cheer, but this time it wasn't all smiles.
Because I want to get adopted. That's understandable, you know. Yeah, this is messed up.
He's talking about 6 years in foster care and getting closer to aging out of the system when he turns 18.
I'll be fine.
It's okay to show us your emotion.
Yeah. It's fine, you know.
Why are you crying, son?
I don't know. I'm not crying, I just have tears out of my eyes.
Eden is on the autism spectrum.
I think the thing that strikes me the most about Eden, in spite of all of his challenges, he has a super attitude.
Mr. Bill and his caseworker are the only family Eden has.
They're awesome.
Why are they awesome to you? What is it they do that make them so awesome?
They take care of me ever since 4 years. Don't, like I said, I'm not crying or anything.
Eden's tender heart is like sunshine in a dark world.
Whenever I start to feel sorry for myself, I just say, think what Eden's facing, and your problems become so much smaller.
Eden needs a family who will be patient, structured, and will never give up on him. But above all, this courageous young man needs love.
This time I'm brave.
You're very brave.
Heck yeah.
Eden told us he wanted to be adopted, and we were never going to give up on him. So it is with inexplicable joy that we bring you this update.
I don't know. I'm not crying, I just have tears out of my eyes.
After 7 years in foster care, we announced Eden was adopted in October, one day after turning 17 years old.
I was like crying, seriously, for joy, to be honest with you.
Eden's adoptive parents saw him featured on WFAA twice.
I clicked on it and I noticed this kid and I was like, I know him, that's my son. And I was shocked, and sure enough, the little clip of his first video was there and I was like, that's him, nobody adopted him, he's mine.
There were many signs that Eden belonged to this family, like the fact he and Grandma shared the same birthday, and so many other coincidences.
That's crazy.
Moved into our house officially on his brother's birthday. He was placed in our house on my birthday.
And my adoption was finalized the day after my birthday. Just information.
Eden now has a mom, dad, and 4 siblings, 2 of whom are also on the autism spectrum.
He kind of completes our family, I guess.
Because that's a true point. True point.
We kind of always felt like there was somebody missing, even though it was really hectic in our house. For some reason, there was somebody that wasn't there, and it was supposed to be.
Eden's heart is filled with gratitude for the advocates who helped him to get adopted. You know who you are.
Are you happy?
Basically, yes.
This Thanksgiving, when the family gathers around the table, Eden will top the list of blessings.
I really love them.
It takes a village, and tonight Eden is in his forever home because of it.
Eden is here.
Once and for all.
Yep. You're ours, huh?
Yeah, so how do you not, shed a couple tears over that one? Mr. Bill is doing great. He was one of those people I talk about being Eden's advocates. 2, another coincidence, he is now one of 5 children. Get this, all of their first names start with A, B, C, D, and E.
Oh my gosh. I mean, you're tearing up. I think we're all tearing up. But to see the way he's changed over the years and to see him shedding tears in the studio when he didn't have that hope, and then to see him crying tears of joy because of the work that you've done. It is incredible.
We've done.
And I see so many of your stories over the years, Cynthia, and oftentimes we don't have this ending. And so to have this right now, we were literally, when we saw this, we were all crying because this is what we got into journalism for, honestly, to make changes in people's lives and to help change the course of one's life like Eden. It was a beautiful story, Cynthia.
And we'll keep it going.
Yeah, and so we're committed to holding those systems accountable, demanding change, and celebrating the wins, because it's going to take all of us.
Whether it's adopting, fostering, mentoring, or even just being aware of what's going on.
We really hope that you will do your part to really see these children and keep them from being lost in the system.